Hello, I'm football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the Foot Weekly Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to week 17 of the Foot Weekly Podcast. This is the gameplay episode, and yeah, we've got plenty to discuss. Both big news in terms of the gameplay outlook moving forward, and we had a patch not too long ago, so we'll have some gameplay tips as a result of that. And joining me, as you'd expect on this one, I have my co-host Josh Excels. Hello, Josh.
Yes, yeah, good to have you back. United have gone through 3 managers, I think, since you last hosted a public pod, so that's fun. up the Michael Carrick.
Yeah. And then we have on this podcast returning again, first time this year, but of course it's not been that long so far. It is Venny. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Okay, I think I said last time that I'm becoming quite a regular. It seems like people enjoy me having on, which is the main thing, and hopefully I can give some tips and insight from a pro perspective about what's coming up with the team of the year as well as the most recent patch.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I think we'll probably dive into because as people probably know, there's a lot of discussion to be had potentially around playstyles and things like that, but we wanted to make sure we get some actual gameplay tips out there for the listeners, because you might be wanting to compete a little harder because of Team of the Year rewards, and obviously the gameplay has changed a little bit because of that patch. So let's dive into that first of all and talk about maybe just initially actually some thoughts from you, Venny. How are you feeling about the patch, just top level so far?
Yeah, I think if you didn't know there was a patch, and from what I saw on Twitter, people didn't even feel a patch. I went on the game as soon as it happened, and I noticed very big differences in some most really important decisions when it comes to pro play. One of them being with how I basically called the AI being sleepy, which was when you get into attacking areas around the bots, that there was a little bit more space one-on-one, especially if they wasn't defending you manually. But I still think people didn't understand how to punish it, and that's actually why they was like, it doesn't feel like anything's changed, but it's because the user wasn't actually understanding how they can utilize the spacing a little bit better. As well as some differences with advanced defending, especially as we know how strong it is on the fullbacks with their strength and aggression buffs, what actually happens. If you hit it right and do it right with the advanced defending, you can really punish opponents, as well as some nice changes to fullbacks and wingbacks and attacking wingback roles, which we haven't really been able to have this year. I think it was actually quite prompting, especially the start of last year of the game. Attacking wingback was actually used a lot in pro play. I think it's a role what people really enjoy having because it helps with attacking play. We know, obviously defending is hard, but having them extra options in attack and having that versatility within attack to be able to have an extra number is really, really useful. It has only took them, God knows how many months, but it's took them a while to actually get them to work after they worked fine before. But it's nice to have them in.
Yeah, we talked about this. So there's a sports episode last week, and we talked about the patch. And Ivan Dr. Nightwatch, also a pro coach as well, was basically saying, yeah, it's really nice to see that the attacking wingback roles are working properly, because it actually allows you to get attacking runs out of those players, which wasn't really possible before. And I think that is something that people, out there will probably enjoy and can now experiment with. Going into kind of more specific tips, I think that thing you talked about around the defense being a bit more sleepy when being controlled by the AI, or I say controlled by the AI, but not being controlled by the user. We talked about that a bit, but yeah, it's interesting what you're saying, that people maybe aren't aware of how to punish that, and I think that is an important point. What would you be telling people to do in that situation to take advantage of people who aren't controlling those defenders?
So the defense still drops in pretty deep, and that's where people are struggling. But with the one-on-one defending, if they're not controlling them, you have a lot of space. So I think when I was on the last podcast, I mentioned how strong Finesse Plus was. I think it's even better now, because if the opponent doesn't switch to the player fast enough, the spacing is great for you just to be able to touch and finesse. But it's also moving the ball with intent and speed whilst using the tiki-taka, the ping pass, and actually just moving it around the opponent. If they're just going to sit on a CDM or a centre mid and drop them in the box, well, you've got enough numbers attacking-wise, as long as you've got the right tactics, to be honest with you, that you should be able to move the ball fast with the tiki-taka and find these easy moments for the finesse plus shot. But there's also a shot type, which I'm seeing more, and I've been using it more myself. It's just the low-driven finesse. With players with the low-driven plus playstyle, it seems to be really, really strong, especially within like eight yards out. It seems to be like a great way to just get the shot off nice and fast. With the opponents sometimes do feel like they're being tight. If you can just give yourself a space with the first touch, just using the left stick and then hitting that low-driven finesse, it's being able to punish people pretty easy in my sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. And would you recommend dribbling those defenders at all? Or, you know, I mean, at the start of the cycle, obviously technical was really good for doing that. But do you think that's back, or is it not as strong as it once was?
So I think last year was a lot about once you got to the box, it was just tiki-taka pass, spam it, and basically hopefully it landed at the player. This year, I think it's a bit of a combination of using the left stick dribbling inside the box, because it is much, much better than we've had in previous years, but using it in a way to be fast and reactive rather than protecting the ball. Like I always say to my players, like I would rather you get into the box, take an aggressive touch and try and set yourself up to shoot, than take a passive touch and protect the ball. Because at the end of the game, if you go, oh, every time I was in good moments that I was aggressive and I went to try and score, I was able to kind of punish the opponent. I will say as well, in pro play, we're seeing a slight change in how people are defending, and this actually happened a lot at the end of last year, which is utilizing the team press when the team is dropped deep. And this is kind of like the counter of the patch, what we've just had, right? It's pushing the players to be one-on-one more towards the defenders. And it's, to be honest, at that point, it is hard to dribble around the players. You have to be really like reactive to it. So if you can become good with the team press and understand holding goal side, holding the positions what you need to, you can like make defending for yourself a lot easier.
Yeah, because the second man press, yeah, I don't think it's as good as it was. I maybe think there's some slight tweak there. I mean, we talked about this last week, but it is still more effective for sure than just leaving the AI to defend for you. Like it moves the player far quicker, and you get a good amount of tracking, which I think if you can utilize that will help mitigate some of the impact of the patch. But obviously, it's not as free to use because there's a timer that drains as you use it, and that is something that you have to work with, I suppose, when you're doing that. So it's a bit more balanced than it was. Anything from your perspective, Josh, you just thought might be helpful for people perhaps after having a week or so of the patch? I know we talked a bit about it last week, but
no, I mean, just that I still think Shield is underused, like just holding L2, and I think even more so now post-patch, especially kind of on the edge of the area. You know, if you're not someone who's super confident with their first touch, that you like actually just holding Shield for a little bit can really throw people off defensively because they're not used to it. And then can also have the other effects of making them more aggressive the next time you kind of pass the ball to somebody on the edge of the box because they think you're just got a shield. So let me go and kind of put that press on. There's not kind of too much. I do think the attacking fullback change is interesting. I talked about using it. It must have been like 3 or 4 weeks into the cycle, where on the support role, an attacking wingback will only run forward essentially if the ball's on their side, and so they'll make those attacking movements. And I wonder if something within that is what made them so crap. Like that feeling of like having to notice that the ball is on their side. I wonder if that's what made them. I want to use the word passive, but it wasn't exactly passive. It was just more kind of. It was like the runs were delayed, almost like they weren't making the run when you would expect an attacking wingback to make that run. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that they changed that, and the fact that a change that has such a big impact in game was just like one line in an extras section rather than its own bit that explained what was wrong, why it's better, why it's different. Like I think that's probably been the thing that I've maybe noticed the most. But other than that, I like attacking wise, I think Venny's kind of explained quite well how you can maybe exploit the fact that the defense are a little less active. But I'm also curious to see, as we move into what looks like a pretty big power curve push, how much that reduction in defensive help due to the AI is combated by the improving defensive players people are going to be able to get their hands on.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Because one thing that's kind of noticeable is that regardless of playstyles to an extent, defensive awareness is the thing that's going to be impacting that tracking, you'd think. And actually, they've been fairly good at keeping the defensive awareness of players like not crazy high. But you'd think that's going to get bumped up as a result of Team of the Year. So things might change a little bit on that front. I was actually going to also mention that at the start of the cycle, I was using technical combined with like the heavy touch is like an effort touch, right? You flick the right stick. And it feels like because of that, like, lacking mobility of the AI defensive players, you can use that again quite effectively to kind of get a bit of space when you're kind of coming into the box with an attacker if your opponent isn't controlling that defensive player. So I'd maybe look out for that. It's quite easy to do. Just hold R1/RB, I guess, to do technical, and then flick the right stick to get a little bit of extra space. So that could be something worth doing as well. And then moving on to, you mentioned earlier the advanced defending element. Now, we have talked about this a little bit over the cycle, and it's something that is maybe, well, as it says, a bit more advanced, right? Because you've got the sort of default setting, which is, it's kind of slightly confusing, the names, right? What's the default called? It's like
Tactical.
Tactical, yeah, that's it. Tactical defending, and that is where you press B or circle, circle the tackle button, and the game's going to make a decision for you whether to seal out the player or make the tackle, and that's when you have tactical defending on. And then once you switch to advanced defending, you make the decision yourself. If you press circle or B, you'll do a tackle, and if you press X or A, then you will seal out the player. And so there's been a bit of backwards and forwards over, what you should do this cycle, because they've made changes to physicality quite frequently. And so I guess it'd be interesting to come to you, Venny, now after this patch, at the sort of top level, where they're going to be willing to adopt slightly more complex strategies, obviously, to get an advantage, because that advanced defending is a bit more complex and tricky to do. Is that now an advantage that people are using?
Yeah, advanced defending is honestly night and day, the difference. I actually use tactical defending because I don't actually play the game too much, so I've always just stayed as tactical defending. And last week I made the change to advanced defending because I just had a bit more time of playing. The difference and the control you have in defensive situations is so good. Knowing that, like, okay, if I press this button, this is the animation I'm going to get. If I press this button, this is the animation I'm going to get. With the tactical defending, I'm pressing tackle. I don't know if I'm going to get the seal out animation or the tackle animation. When I think I'm going to get a seal out, I'm getting a normal tackle. When I'm going to get a tackle, then it's a seal out. It's like, I want clarity, and it's much easier for me to defend that way because I know if I press this button, this is the outcome I get. But yeah, I think like they made changes. I think with tactical, when like advanced defending came in like last year, I feel like tactical before used to do both animations together. Used to do the seal out and tackle. Now, as I said, the game decides which one it wants to do, and that's the problem. You don't actually have control. Or from what I understand by using it, there's not like a clear understanding of like, if you hold tackle maybe longer, does it do the seal out animation? Or if you tap tackle, does it do the tackle? It's not. I can tap it. Sometimes it seals out. I tap it. Sometimes it does a stand and tackle, unfortunately. So advanced defending now just seems to be super, super clear.
Yeah. And then in terms of people adopting that, any advice for those people? Is that do you have like a general rule? I'm not really going to generally tackle, let's say, in the box. You just doing seal outs in those situations? Is there anything particularly that's worth kind of pointing out on that?
So it's going to take a while to understand where to use it, because it's going to get to a point you're like, oh my God, I can seal him out everywhere. And what will happen, you'll just start running them and trying to hit him. That will happen. It'll be a learning curve. The best positions to do it is when you're side by side to the player. If you're standing from the front, you're actually better off using tackle still. But if you're on the side of the player, utilizing the advanced defending, and I know I've said in a previous podcast about spamming X is actually your best way of using advanced defending, because it's basically forcing the animations repeats like on repeat. When if you just do it once, it only does that once time. So if you spam X or whatever your advanced defending button is, it gives you the glitchy look of advanced defending.
And then I guess also the advantage, I think we did talk about this before actually, is that you're less likely to give away a foul, right? It doesn't seem like it will trigger fouls generally, or can you? I feel like I've used it a bit this cycle. I've kind of gone backwards and forwards, and I don't feel like I've ever conceded a foul with advanced defending, but maybe I wasn't using it as much as you might be.
You have to be careful in the bots. That's one thing I am noticing, especially if you're behind a player and you spam it, that it does sometimes give a penalty. But that's only if you're behind a player. There is one thing, what you do also need to be careful of is don't press R1 when you spam an X, because what it will do is tactical foul them.
That's a really good point.
I've unfortunately gave away some penalties, which actually was red cards, because I'm not playing for the ball. And I've lost the games because I've been holding second man press whilst doing advanced defending. So make sure that you're not pressing second man press at the same time.
They did, to be fair, add an update where you can turn it off, the tactical foul, I think. So that might be worth doing if you're going to try this out, and that is a risk for you, because that doesn't sound good at all. Although I do find it kind of useful, I'm not going to lie, for stopping counters, so I don't know that I necessarily want to disable it. I think we're pretty ready to move on. Was there anything actually, Josh, from your perspective about physicality? I know you mentioned it on last week's supporter episode about finding using like enforcer and shielding much more effective, but anything else to add on that?
I think there may be a discussion to be had around the best defensive playstyles, and that might have changed. I know we had, I think the most expensive Evo we've had this cycle was 100,000 coins for a centre back with Anticipate Plus. And whilst I still think it's good, I've always been an Anticipate Plus hater, because I think it's a bit of I've seen it pop up, so it must be doing something. Whereas if you don't have it and win the ball, you don't think, I didn't need Anticipate Plus there. It's one of those positive reinforcement things. Maybe Bruiser's back, because that's kind of the seal out tackle animation. Advanced defending's always been something I've kind of dabbled with and then kind of sometimes reverted. Usually by the time I've dabbled with it, I get told by somebody, oh no, go back, tactical's better now. So I'll have to jump on the bandwagon early this time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Bruiser definitely makes, I think, more of a difference than it used to. I mean, it was literally broken, right, from part of the cycle. So it was always going to be something that got better. And, its importance in GG rating on foot.gg has risen quite a lot over the course of the cycle. So it's definitely one to look out for. And obviously, if we're going into a 2/ potentially, actually, we can say this now, 3 PlayStyle Plus era, then having Bruiser as one of them, I think it could well be a move. Anyway, I think we're probably done for this section of tips, unless there's anything people want to sneak in at the end here, or no, I think we're good for now. So we will come back and talk about playstyle pluses and the fact that we will be getting 3 on Team of the Years. For those who listened to the supporter content episode this week, you'll know that a good chunk of it was us saying that it would be the wrong move for the game cycle as a whole. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. And we'll also give you our choices for our playstyles for the cam position, a new feature we've added into the gameplay podcast, where we kind of run down our preferred playstyles in a specific role or position. We'll be back to do all those things after this break. Hello, and in this break, a quick reminder that the pod is made possible by supporters. The pod didn't used to be weekly. Yes, Foot Weekly wasn't actually weekly for a time. And then someone suggested setting up the Patreon. And since then, the pod has been weekly. And in fact, it's been twice weekly because there is that supporter episode every single week. So if you'd like to catch that episode and keep the podcast going, it's just £3 a month to do so. And you get loads in return. And there are perks higher than that, including access to the Discord too. So if you're interested and would like to support the podcast, then head over and search Support for Weekly. Go to Patreon and it's very easy to sign up. If you are a supporter keeping the podcast going, then a huge thank you for doing so. And if you do consider supporting, a huge thank you too. Right, let's jump back into the pod. Hello, welcome back after the break. Right, let's start by going through our ranking of playstyles for the cam position, something we're calling playstyle power rankings. And I guess cam position, not everyone's using a cam at the moment, I suppose, because you got a lot of people playing 4-5-1. But actually, I think if you're not playing that, you're probably playing with a cam. So I think we're kind of assuming it's a cam in a sort of behind one striker formation, I guess, because I think it might be slightly different if you're playing a cam behind two strikers. That player's maybe more of a kind of deeper player, a bit more of a playmaker, whereas we're more looking for a shadow striker type role. Although before we say that, I guess it's probably worth mentioning, Venny, that I know at certainly the pro level, a lot of people don't like the shadow striker plus because it does lead to a lot more movement to the extent that actually it's probably not that useful. I would say just quickly, actually, before you say that, as someone who's not at pro level, I don't find it too much of a problem. Like I don't mind almost. Like I think I can get some benefit out of the shadow striker plus because they make some runs in behind that can be something you like play your cam in via your striker, which can be quite nice. But yeah, it's certainly not something that everyone's completely sold on, the shadow striker plus.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some tinkering with tactics, to be honest with you, at the pro level, because I would actually say shadow striker plus is better than playmaker plus. Due to how it wanders off. But the problem with using a shadow striker, again, he's going to go wide. He's also going to be really high up. So it's going to be hard to maybe do the transitions, what playmaker actually gives you. So there might be some tinkering, like false nine attack has been a really good role this year. So maybe there's a combination of false nine attack with a shadow striker. So you still get the benefit maybe of somebody dropping in. Hopefully if like the shadow striker doesn't drop in, the false nine drops in. If the shadow striker drops in, the false nine stays up, hopefully. So I think there's going to be a little bit tinkering with that. But yeah, for me, it's mainly playmaker was used so much in pro play due to 𝘵𝑚𝑎𝑡𝑖 not one being one of the best cards you can use due to her playstyles, but two because she didn't have plus or plus on any of the roles for playmaker or shadow striker. The playmaker with no role seemed to play very central, but still get into good positions, especially around the attacking area by going into the box, staying out the box. And it was quite easy to understand what it was going to give you. Rather now, I guess it's a bit of a learning curve of, okay, if I'm using this role with this combination with other roles, like what is it I'm actually going to get?
Yeah, that makes sense. And actually, yeah, I mean, whether you're playing the playmaker or shadow striker, I think if you're playing in that 4-4-1-1 type shape, I mean, that could also be, the 4-2-3-1, either variation or something like that. I do think the playstyle choices are probably relatively similar. So we'll go through those. And Venny, actually, why don't you start us off actually, and let's hear what playstyles you go for. We're going to go for 2 playstyle pluses, considering where we are in the power curve, and then 7 regular playstyles. We'll try and give them kind of in order of priority, I suppose. So yeah, start us off at the top.
So with the playstyle pluses, I will keep it. I'm trying to get the most out of the playstyle plus. For example, with my base playstyles, you'll understand it when I get to it, but technical plus and finesse plus, I think are 2 playstyle pluses what give you a big jump from their base playstyles. How I usually see the cam being played is, in theory, in build-up, an extra layer and a player to connect to play. But once he gets to the attacking areas, he basically becomes a second striker. That's why I've gone with technical and finesse, especially with the 𝗫𝗔 AI defending, having technical plus. You can burst past the opponents, use finesse plus then after the technical plus, and get some nice combinations from that position.
Nice. That makes sense. And then regular playstyles?
Then into the base playstyles, I've gone incisive and tiki-taka. Again, this is why they're base, because I think the value of them just as base is strong enough. I will say incisive playstyle plus is really strong. So if I had to do a third, like later down the line, then it might be incisive. But based off what I feel is the most strong with what I want from a cam, I would go incisive and tiki-taka as the base, then ping pass, then first touch, then this might surprise a lot of people, inventive. I actually think inventive is a super, super underrated play style because it gives you different angles of play to be able to do different through balls. And actually, Oberon, the player who I coach, actually feels like the through balls are better. Like we was using Musiala, for example, and he was like, I'm sure if with inventive, like the passes are better, they're connecting better. And he wasn't even utilizing like the L2 in every single pass. He was just using the normal through ball. Kind of keeping on, added more options within the play. Game changer then comes in because once again, it gives you different angles to shoot from without having to think, which is obviously really nice. And then I'm going to add a running play style in, which is going to be rapid. But as you can tell, for me, the running play styles are very low due to how I see a cam being played. Again, it's that connecting player between the midfield and the attack. It's very rare that for me and in pro play that the cam is the person running in behind, and it's more so the person who's having the ball in feet, spreading the play out to the wingers or to the striker, and then again once it gets to the attacking areas, feeling like it's basically a third striker. I just realised though I haven't put low driven in, so I've trolled this whole list. So I'm going to take rapid out. Actually, I just realised that. Right, let me change that order real quick. So after ping pass, I would go low driven, and then first touch, then inventive, then game changer. So I wouldn't actually have any run and play styles on my cam.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, it's a good list. It's interesting. Actually, I'll hold that until after Josh has gone. So Josh, what are you going for?
Yeah, I don't think too different. I think it's interesting to compare this maybe to when we talked about strikers and what play styles we'd have on the strikers and the difference that the cam has, because I think the way that maybe pro and high level players use that cam will be slightly different to how kind of your average player plays. I think a lot of people will see them as a second striker almost, where passing is more important, but they still want them to be kind of getting into the box, sometimes playing the 1-2 with the striker and making the run beyond. So I think there'll be some variance on that. I think the place where there's no variance for me is finesse plus. Like that just has to be there because the positions that the cam will be in, having that just as a weapon that you can use to kind of score if you're not having pressure put on you, you'll get so many goals from that I think it's probably the first one I put on. It's interesting that Venny, because you went for technical, didn't you, as your second? And it's actually something I've kind of brought up a few times that I really like technical in midfield. I talked about that groggy card that had technical in midfield, technical plus in midfield, and found that it kind of startled opponents, the kind of ability to just kind of break into their back line so quickly with technical, but have such close control. And with finesse, it is dangerous. It's probably more my play style because I like passing the ball so much that I probably would more to the side of a passing play style plus as the second than technical plus, even though I do like it. And for me, I think it's probably incisive at cam. In midfield, I'd always be a proponent of tiki-taka, but in that cam slot, you tend to be playing more through balls than you are just kind of X passes into feet. I could see, again, it's a playstyle thing. I could see somebody wanting tiki-taka if that's the way that they play. They more play in someone's foot. And again, talking about shielding earlier, if you want to play it into a kind of big striker to hold players off, then actually playing the X pass is going to be more important than playing a through ball, because you can utilize their ability to shield more. So yeah, I think I'd be going Finesse and Incisive plus, and then pretty much the same everywhere else. Obviously, then I'd have Tech Base, then Tiki Taka, Ping Pass. It's interesting, Inventive, because Inventive is something I've seen quite a few pros talk about now and high-level players talk about, but isn't something I've necessarily like seen or added to my game. So maybe it's something I need to give like a little bit more of a chance to, because when I was initially going through it, it would have been low driven, pinged pass, tiki taka, technical, first touch, and then I would probably go for a rapid or quick step depending on how you're using your cam. Again, probably just because of like, I know that Ultimate Team's slightly different, but in pro clubs, you really notice the difference of your ability to just burst ahead of a defender if you have rapid when you're sprinting with the ball. And then depending on the size of your player, I'm not against like a enforcer or press proven in there, like something to kind of give you the ability to hold the ball a bit more, especially if someone who likes dribbling. I think press proven adds a little something to your ability to hold on to the ball. And again, as someone who isn't really utilizing Travella's game changers, not necessarily a base play style that would be on my cam. So yeah, I think they're my three. I think the three playstyle pluses, if you could choose them for me, would be Finesse, Incisive, and Technical. But I think my second playstyle plus would probably be Incisive before Technical.
Yep. That actually leads me nicely onto what I was going to say about playstyle pluses, because I'd be exactly the same. I think it's Finesse plus, absolutely for sure. And then it's, for me, a big toss-up between Incisive plus and Technical plus. And I think maybe Technical plus is going to edge it just because it is a bigger upgrade, I think, on the base playstyle, as Venny was just saying. So then for your my kind of ranking for the rest of them is I would go, and actually it's worth saying I do play a 4-4-1-1, and so I do use a cam quite a lot. And I think possibly the difference for me in that cam position is sort of a bit of what Josh is saying, where I am using that cam more as a second striker. Pro gameplay is a lot more focused on kind of patient build-up, I suppose, to some extent. And I think outside of that, you tend to be a bit more maybe aggressive in your attacks with players. So I am thinking about that player as a bit more of a striker, perhaps. So yeah, that sort of first base play style is, I guess, going to be Technical or Incisive, depending on what you went for as your plus. And then Tiki-Taka, don't need to say more about that, I think. And then low driven, I think, just for that extra shooting option. And then here, controversially, I've gone for rapid. And I think having used Ronaldinho in the cam position, the SBC, I do really like the fact that he can just kind of burst past a midfielder or a defender in a way that like you don't really get outside of players with rapid. And obviously he has the plus, so it's not quite as good with players without the plus, but it's still pretty good. And then I go for first touch as the fifth one, because I do think that's quite underrated. Just helps a lot in those tight spaces. I also think press proven could be nice here. Like if you're evolving a player and maybe first touch isn't around, I think press proven could be good for a similar kind of reason. And then, yeah, controversially, I haven't yet gone for pinged, but I think you could go for pinged here if you're using the player a bit more in build-up. And then I would maybe make a decision between, because this is like the 6th and 7th, maybe thinking about pinged or quick step or press proven or game changer or inventive. I think all of those could kind of serve pretty kind of good function depending on how you're using them. Obviously game changer if you want more shooting angles, inventive if you want just a bit more creativity in the passing, and then like quick step if you definitely are using them as a second striker. And pinged I probably would have in there, to be honest. I do think it's it can help a lot in the build up, but yeah, if you find your strikers just in the box a lot, then you're maybe not going to need that at all. But yeah, I think that was a good kind of selection of the different ways to play your cam, actually, and kind of highlight some of the play styles. And it's worth noting that there's actually an Evo, which is EA have actually stated is coming, which is going to be one of those ones where you can kind of build your own player over Team of the Year. You're going to make a Team of the Year honorable mention, which will be either a CDM, a centre mid, or a cam. And so hopefully that will be helpful in terms of if you're going to do the cam, what playstyles you might want to choose. It's interesting because I do not see that many people playing CDMs anymore, so I'm assuming most people are going to be going centre mid or cam. And we did talk about the centre mid box to box role on the supporter gameplay episode last week. If people want to check that out, maybe a time to plug the supporter episodes over on Patreon. You can just sign up for £3 a month to get all those bonus episodes. If you just search support for weekly, you'll find it there. Right, is there anything else we want to add on playstyle choices or anything around playstyles before we move on to kind of discussing playstyles more generally?
So I think less playstyles for Cam, but from Venny's perspective, I've got two questions. Would you prefer 5-star skill moves or 5-star weak foot? And what kind of player, like body type wise, are you looking for in the Cam slot?
Do I have 4-star weak foot or 4-star skills? With
Yeah. So it's 5-4 or 4-5. Yeah. I'd
probably go in 5-star skills because I actually think 𝘵𝘰𝘬𝘦 cancels is a super OP skill move, which really helps beating people use team press around the bots. Because if you do it right, let's say you start facing towards the goal, your own goal, and then you do it with the team press, it starts forcing the opponent's team to push up, and then you can find some good timing. So right now, I'm going 5-star skills due to that reason. Also, I think it's just nice inside the box, being able to pop off like a reverse elastico or a 𝘵𝘰𝘬𝘦 cancel or any sort of like skill move you want. Then body type and height. I'm not too fussed on body type, to be honest with you. I think they do have good impacts, and I think we spoke about it before. It's like this year, probably because of Peanut, everyone was like, "Oh, I need to use this body type to get this outcome and stuff like that." But one of my best evos this year has been 𝘵𝑝𝗃𝗏, and he's average medium, tall medium, I think, something like that, in centre mid. And I usually think lean medium is better. So I'm not really too fussed on body type, but I would, if I'm going to have to say one, it's probably either like a lean build but small, or just average and like small. So let's say like 5'6", 5'7", maybe even 8 is like the kind of height range of what I'm going for.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it is a position where you can be a bit more kind of varied in your choices, maybe, than some other positions. I was going to say, I think it's probably time to move on, but if listeners want to suggest which position we should cover next, then do send in your suggestions at FootWeeklyPod, footweekly@mail.com, or in the pod priority section of the supporter Discord for Gold.icon supporters. Right, I think we'll actually take a slightly earlier break than we would normally in this middle section, and then come back to talk about the impact that 3 Playstyle Pluses are going to have on 𝘵FC 26, and also a bit about the decision, whether we like it, whether we don't. We'll catch you right after this. Hello, welcome back after the break. Right, let's talk about playstyles, because we haven't talked enough about them over the course of this cycle. We could start off actually with this question before we talk about the Team of the Year 3 Playstyle Plus elements, because I think it sets things up nicely. It's a question from Jay Dickinson, and he says, with how overpowered playstyles are this year to the point that they're more important than stats, do you think EA will change in this area to reduce the impact of playstyles and allow stats to have more of a bearing? If a player has 90 plus short passing and long passing but no tiki-taka, they perform significantly worse than a player with much lower passing stats that has tiki-taka. We've also seen the video of the bronze centre-back with finesse plus scoring goals for fun to highlight this as well. Yeah, I think there's no doubt in people's minds really that playstyles aren't incredibly strong, and it's something that is interesting considering EA said in the gameplay pitch notes at the start of the cycle that they had reduced the impact of playstyles and weighted things more towards stats, and that just seems to not have really carried through into this game cycle, and it feels like actually playstyles are really just as strong as ever, and as we enter the sort of 2 to 3 Playstyle Plus era, should we call it, I suppose, that's going to be probably highlighted further. I guess sort of simply starting things off with the question, Venny, do you think, well, I guess first of all, is it something you'd like to see change? And also, is it something that you think EA would change in a patch?
Going off what they said, I think it's not meant to be this strong, and I think I could say this. I had a friend who went to test the game at the start of the year when all the creators and stuff like went, and he said the use of playstyles wasn't as big. Like he could feel like he could do a first time pass without tiki taka, for example. I think that was originally what was meant to happen. I don't know what's happened over from that time to the actual release of the game, and maybe it's because we're using gold cards and maybe the stats aren't super high. But my argument is, I coach a team Stuttgart in virtual Bundesliga, and they have 299 cards, and we play one at striker. And his first time through balls are the worst I've ever seen. They never work. But if he takes a touch and plays a through ball, they're really good. So there's some play styles what are too essential to do certain movements, but maybe that's like, again, I guess maybe they don't even want first time through balls to even be a thing. Potentially, that could be the reason why it is so bad. But yeah, for me, would I like it a kind of reduced? I would like it to be reduced, because I do think it just limits to what we can do with different cards and use different cards. I think maybe like a nice addition could be is like if the player has X stat that they unlock the playstyle or playstyles from, like, let's say they have 90 passing, they unlock like all the passing playstyles, and you can collect 2 or 3 which ones you actually want, allowing like the players to have a bit more creativity within that. But yeah, I think they're too needed, unfortunately, with a lot of situations, which I don't think was the actual plan.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I think I agree with what you're saying. I also think I sense that EA would want to change things, considering, as you said, what they said at the start of the cycle. It's just whether they can do that, considering it may involve going in and tuning every single playstyle impact in the game in order to make that happen. Potentially, I think it's more likely we see sort of targeted changes to specific things that are making a big difference. I think like passing and tiki-taka would be maybe one of the more obvious ones. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are a few others as well, but yeah, it'd be good to see that. I think they have committed to making more gameplay changes over the course of the cycle, and I think that is something that would, I think, make a difference in the game. The big concern is, I think, from a user perspective, is people have been working on Evos, they've purchased Team of the Year items or packed them or whatever, and then suddenly the sort of holy grail, which is, say, Tiki-Taka Plus, is no longer what it was, and you can just play passes pretty, similarly without the playstyle, and obviously that causes frustration. But I mean, if it's for the good of the game overall, maybe we need to accept those sorts of things. And if EA did that more regularly throughout the cycle, I think people would just be accepting of it. But if there's a sudden change, I think that's when people are like, oh, well, I didn't sign up for this sort of thing. But Josh, yeah, do you think that they will change it? Do you want them to change it?
Yes, I do think they should change it. I don't think they're going to, though. I think there's an element of just being too far down the path now, and that thing of if people have, spent money, let's be honest, right? If people have spent money to get a hold of these players because they have the right selection of play styles that work in the current iteration of the game, and then you drastically change the effectiveness of those play styles and therefore the effectiveness of those players, you start getting into really murky waters. And I think it's probably the reason why we don't have like the winter ratings refresh that we used to have, where cards would go up and down in value, because I don't think EA want that kind of massive impact on players that people own. So I don't know. For me, would I want it to be changed? Yeah, I just don't think it will be. And I don't know what if anything happened, because I feel like I've fallen into the trap that we do every year of feeling like the game changed dramatically from week 1 to like week 3 or week 4, where those first few weeks it didn't feel like playstyles were that important. But is that just because we weren't using players with those playstyles, and once you did, you couldn't then go back? That wasn't what it felt like at the time. So I don't know. To me, I'm kind of frustrated. I get the thing, though, that if they're useless, if playstyles don't really do anything and you can't feel the difference, then what's the point in having them in at all? I just think that, I've said it a few times on here, from EA's perspective, if you can sell cards based on a 0 to 99 distribution versus a 0, 1, or 2 distribution, which is what PlayStyles are, surely the 0 to 99 is easier to sell on because it's a longer process. You've got more room to move in it rather than just having no PlayStyles, a base PlayStyle or a PlayStyle Plus. So, I mean, they'll probably introduce another tier of PlayStyles. We've spoken about that before to fix it. So I don't know. For me, I get it. I get the need for them. I like them as a concept. I just think they are now too. You should never be in a position where you can't really pass the ball without having a play style. Like that's just a silly place to be. Play styles should be for doing things unusual, not for doing the basics of football. Because then, what is the point of the stats? So yeah.
I think it's a good point. I mean, I think there is an argument as well from like potentially the foot or ultimate team kind of team's perspective in terms of the way that they can sell new players, that actually, at least if you're trying to be very sort of straightforward and in your face about improvements to players, Playstyle Pluses are a really easy way to sell a player because, you know, people are talking about Finesse Plus being really strong or Tiki-Taka being really strong. And if you can just slap that on a player and suddenly they're like meta, that's actually quite a straightforward way to present like someone that you might want to chase. Whereas a sort of +2 or 3, sometimes not even that stat increase is really not something that they can sell quite as well because it's not such a sort of night and day change. So maybe there is an argument from a sort of like content perspective that that's the case. And it certainly seems that would make sense considering what they've done, as we know from leaks about Team of the Year, because we know now that they are doing 3 Playstyle Pluses on the Team of the Year, 11 or 12, I guess, potentially. And that is maybe not unexpected, but we did spend a lot of time on the supporter pod this week, on the content pod, saying that it wasn't the best decision for the game, and we hoped it didn't happen. I guess, Josh, do you just want to summarize, for those who haven't caught that episode, what our kind of argument was for why this wasn't something that we would necessarily want to see?
So effectively, it's down to the discussion that EA themselves were open to having, which is that the power curve last year moved too quickly. And so they were going to slow down the power curve this year. That, to me, really, I thought the problem with the power curve last year was the move to 3 Playstyle Plus that happened at Team of the Year. It hadn't happened the year before. We were at 2 Playstyle Pluses for Team of the Year, and it allowed room for growth in the rest of the game cycle. They're still doing 3 Playstyle Pluses at Team of the Year. The cards still look like they've got the same stats. So if you're asking me, have they slowed down the power curve? Well, we're at a really easy point to compare year on year. Where are we in the power curve? And the answer is in exactly the same place 4 months into the game. So they haven't slowed down the power curve. Now, having said that, because I've been talking about this for the past few days, I've had some discussions about it on Discord. I've had some people who listen to the podcast have left some comments about it. I'm actually more now in the camp that they had to do this. I don't think it's good for the game, but from an EA perspective, they had to do this. People have got bananas looking evolutions at this point with hand-picked playstyles across the board. And that is only going to increase. And it's only going to increase during Team of the Year. They couldn't just pause evolutions during Team of the Year because it's the biggest thing in the game right now. And so that, coupled with the fact that we're getting the second Playstyle Plus from the Season Pass that people are beginning to get to now, that includes, Finesse Plus. So you can pair that up with another overpowered Playstyle Plus that you've already been able to put on your player. People are going to have these players that have got 90 stats in pretty much everything. And And then you can even dig into that further because we've had kind of individual in-game stat evos. People might not have 90 face card passing, but have 96 vision, 96 short passing, 96 long passing because everything else is low. You know, I know from kind of the Crappers account that I run with Net that we've got a load of players that look like that. So people are going to have these cards with perfect playstyles, with 2 playstyle pluses, with really good stats. Well, Team of the Year is not good then at that point. And the actual lifespan of Team of the Year cards isn't going to be very long. So from an EA perspective, this is almost, I think, an admission that Evolutions have gotten away from them for the second time. This is the second time in 3 years, I think, that Evos have gotten away from them. Some people may even argue the third time in 3 years. And that in order to make packs seem worthwhile again, they have to now do this big jump to 3 playstyle pluses. I think that's going to be bad for the game long term. There are ways that they can mitigate it, but the way that they mitigate it is they make Team of the Years very, very difficult to pack. And that's also not good for the game. So they're kind of now in a massive catch-22. But I think that's why we've kind of, I don't know, extolled the virtues of trying to rein back playstyles to just 2 playstyle pluses as much as possible. But anyway, well, here we are, 3 playstyle pluses incoming.
Yeah, I did have this moment where I was thinking about the fact that on the podcast, this was after we'd recorded the Sport episode, I'd gone and looked at the players that currently have 2 playstyle pluses while we were talking and said, well, you know, actually, if you look at the players with 2 playstyle pluses, currently their GG rating isn't really even higher than a lot of the players with 1 playstyle plus. And that made me think, well, yeah, they're actually just going to add that 3rd playstyle plus because they need to make that separation possible between what's out there and the Team of the Year players. And ultimately, like, Team of the Year is a huge moment of spend for EA. They have to make sure that they hit that, you know, I mean, actually, I don't know where we need to maybe come back to the whole takeover situation that was happening, but, you know, they need to, Peach shareholders need to show that revenue's growing, and Team of the Year is a huge, huge moment for that. And if they don't make sure that those Team of the Year players make you want to buy packs, then what are they doing? Basically, like, from their perspective, that's the most important thing. And so there's always going to be that. I think the one thing that we need to kind of think about is, well, Team of the Years have always been very exclusive. I mean, I don't think I got one last cycle, for example. And actually, the power curve that exists outside of those Team of the Year players, for a lot of players, is actually the real power curve. And so it'll be, and then the big thing was last cycle, they introduced that Team of the Year evolution, and there were other things around Team of the Year which really did accelerate the power curve for everyone else as well. And I know this sounds really bad because it sounds like I'm saying, well, let's let the big spenders pull away. But to be honest, the game's kind of always been like that. And actually, if we can make it a more kind of smooth curve for those of us who are committed players, who are evolving our players, who are going to kind of catch in terms of the effectiveness, who are hopefully going to be able to catch in terms of effectiveness, those top players, although that's really unrealistic looking at some of the playstyle pluses that I've seen on these leaked players. But, you know, at least to some extent, contend with those players through building players and through those various other things, then maybe, you know, actually it does turn out to be a slightly different power curve than we saw last cycle. But that is me being optimistic for sure. Anyway, Josh and I have spoken enough about this on many podcasts now. So let's hear from Venny about it. I guess there was a couple, we've talked about quite a few different things in there. But I suppose just simply from your perspective, actually, are you disappointed that there's 3 playstyle plus players coming in for Team of the Year, or does that kind of actually get you excited because you're like, yeah, I want to see the power, you know, I want to see the sort of best players added for sure, and get that hype going?
I think I'm in the same boat as you guys. Like, I think for the game long term, it's not the best move. The reason for it, I think it's not the best move, is because now, like, every other promo we're going to get, every card's going to have 2 playstyles. Because that's just how it's going to be. Like, I think we were seeing even with the honourable mentions and the Team of the Year icons as well, they're getting 2. So I think that's the boat they're going to follow. So that power curve with all the other promos is going to be going up, where the promos, what we've had so far, they've only gave it to, like, the top icons, right? With the 2 playstyles. And to be honest with you, the 2 playstyles, what they've been given hasn't even been that good. Like, they've not been the super OP ones. With the Team of the Year, they can give 2 OP ones and 1 bad one. or they can give 3 really good ones. Usually I think they do throw in now and then like a useless playstyle plus as such, as we can say, but from what I've seen, it doesn't look like that with a lot of players. So yeah, I think Josh kind of nailed it, was saying these Evo cards are coming too crazy. They, like, for example, I've got an 85 rated with 88 stats and everything. And he's got Tiki-Taka already on him, literally ready to put either finesse or technical on him, which I've got to decide. So then he's got 2 play styles. So again, even the Evos are going to be too far ahead of the new promos was coming out. Again, that's why they've got to put 2 play styles on them, so everything kind of lines up. I think what is the thing we have to understand, and I think that's for EA to kind of maybe even say to us, is like, how do they see the Team of the Year cards being the main cards over till Team of the Season? Really is when we get like the next big jump of like big promos, right? We have some nice promos in between, but like, do they want the Team of the Year cards still to be the top premium cards in between that time? Is that why they're going to be the only ones with free play styles? Or are we going to have a situation when it comes to March that we're seeing new cards get free play styles, so now the Team of the Years aren't as like high valued? I think that's kind of where the power curve can be not clear what's about to happen. If they said to us like, okay, Team of the Year is going to be free play styles and you're not going to get free play styles until Team of the Season, I would probably be like, okay, like, it's not as bad as maybe I think. But in my head, I'm like, okay, well, everything's just going to line up to that point because that's just how it's going to work. And I think like March time, we might get to a point like we're getting free play styles just before Team of the Season, which, again, I don't mind. I'm not really too fussed if I've got to play with players with 2 play styles or 3 play styles, but to keeping people playing the game and wanting to play the game, I think having like that big jump too soon is going to kill off the game, in my opinion. Having something to work towards and keeping it long is where people stay excited. But I think they also struggle with a balance, because some guy in my chat yesterday came in and said like, oh, I quit playing 2 months in because there was too much to do with the Evos and stuff like that. So, and I said to him, well, Team of the Year is around the corner. It's going to get even worse if you think it was bad 2 months in the game. So, yeah, that's kind of where my head is at with it all.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. It all makes sense. It's interesting what you're saying about how they do the power curve kind of from this point onwards, I suppose. If we know it's 3 playstyle pluses on that sort of top tier of players. I think last cycle we started getting Josh, did you say this actually before we recorded? I think that we started getting 3 playstyle plus players released in campaigns only 2 weeks before Team of the Season. So there was a long period of not getting any 3 playstyle plus players. And actually that kind of got me thinking, well, maybe it's more what would feel better as a power curve, and we wouldn't have that lull after Team of the Year, is if they just said, screw it, and we get 3 playstyle plus players starting, a month or a couple of weeks even after Team of the Year. And actually, those are more available through Evos even and all that sort of stuff. And then Team of the Season is going to have to be 4, isn't it? But to be honest, I wouldn't hate that because I'm not playing hugely in the summer anyway. So
I mean, it's worth pointing out, Team of the Season was 4 last year. But the 3 playstyle pluses we got only came 2 weeks before Team of the Season, and they were all icons and heroes. There were some cards that ended up as 3 playstyle pluses from like fantasy promos. But as in terms of released cards, we had nobody with 3 playstyle pluses until 2 weeks before, which was Immortals, I think was the promo. So yeah, like they're in a fairly similar position to where they were last year. But I kind of agree with you that if the problem is that you have to make Team of the Year's 3 playstyle pluses because we're already getting really good 2 playstyle plus Evos, then giving us a promo where everything's 3 playstyle plus and then going back to 2 playstyle pluses where they're not going to be the elite 2, but yet we've all got Evos now that have elite playstyle pluses. What is that going to look like? We are literally setting ourselves up for exactly the same issue. And I wonder if this is why, and spoiler alert, I know we don't really do spoilers and leaks on here, but it's important to make this point. So if you don't want to hear it, just shut your ears for the next 15 seconds. But I think this is why icon swaps is coming back, because what is it that is going to make people play this game post Team of the Year? Because I also worry about where the power curve goes during Team of the Year, because it's like, oh, well, now we've got 3 Playstyle Pluses. Let's just give everyone 2 Playstyle Plus players. It's like, no one has them. No one has 2 Playstyle Plus players at the moment. We don't all need these free cards. Like, they're at the end of the current season pass, fine. But I just have this horrible feeling like all of the SBCs, all of the honorable mentions, all going to be 2 Playstyle Pluses. And it's like, right, bang, we're in 2 Playstyle Plus here. It's like, well, where was the lead in? Where was the build up? Like, it doesn't need to be this like kind of bang, we're up to 3, so now 2's just running everywhere. Anyway, that is what it's going to be like. Mm-hmm. I don't know what post Team of the Year is going to look like from a power curve perspective. I've always thought that for Team of the Year, you kind of need to keep re-releasing them into packs to keep people interested, because otherwise, like you're never getting to that peak of the power curve. So yeah.
Yeah, it's also at this point that I think it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, Venny, as we come towards the end, that actually like base playstyles are so strong, and often the Team of the Year players haven't had as many base playstyles as you'd actually think, that if they have, 2 strong playstyle pluses, 1 meh one, which is going to be the case for quite a few of these Team of the Years, and you've got a player who has essentially almost perfected base playstyles and maybe 2 good playstyle pluses, that your player is actually probably going to be better than the Team of the Year. We've said what we've said about the stats thing this cycle, that they're not that important. Your player's not going to have as good stats, but actually they're probably going to be pretty competitive, or if not better than some of those Team of the Year players.
Yeah, especially with the Evos, right? I think we've had crazy Evos already, especially with this season pass. I think like the 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦 you can make, for example, the Thunderstruck time when we had the Flash Evos. Going into Team of the Year, like we could even have more crazy cards. We can create our own, maybe right winger, so we don't want Dembele for our team, for example. Like, and then it's like, well, what's the point of grinding the game then? Because my player's better than Dembele. Why would I want to try and get, I don't know, 5 million coins? Or well, he's probably going to be more than 5 million coins, but whatever. But I can't get that card. It doesn't matter. I can't get that card because I've got a better card anyway. I've got all the playstyles I want. That card doesn't even have this playstyle what I have, which I know is good for me. It leaves us in a position that the Team of the Years maybe not have the value as maybe once had. I remember trying, like back in the day, like FIFA 18. If I packed the Team of the Year, like Team of the Year times then was like even getting them then was like incredibly hard. But I remember having a Messi Team of the Year in FIFA 18, or maybe 19, and it was the best card I used that game, and it wasn't even close. And like all the other cards I was using wasn't close. But now, and that was because obviously we didn't have Evos and other like promos, what was getting the cards closer to that Team of the Year. Now, as I said, I've got a midfielder with 88 base stats with all the play styles already there. Am I going to want one of these Team of the Year midfielders? Probably not, to be honest with you. Especially with the Team of the Year honourable mention Evo coming, I probably have like my 2 midfielders set for my team then. Which kind of downgrades actually packing these Team of the Years and that big feeling of it. Of course, you can't beat packing a Team of the Year. I packed Team of the Year 𝘵𝘱 last year, and she was one of my favourite cards I used. But if I know I can just make something in an Evo and it's going to take me, okay, maybe 30 games, but with the Gold Cup right now, it's actually quite nice. I'm not bothered about playing 30 games to get a card what's as good as a Team of the Year card.
And I mean, yeah, we should just say as well, like, this is a better, for those of us who aren't going to have Team of the Years, or, like, there'll be loads of people out there. Like I said myself, I'm not sure, I maybe did use a Team of the Year, but like, I'm not sure I got one. I can't really remember, but I don't remember having a particularly strong one if I did. And I think it's important to kind of say that, like, we're fortunately not in the same position we were in previous Team of the Years, where like the Team of the Years were so far beyond the players that a lot of people had in their teams, that like, it was like, people were still playing with like a lot of gold players, and yet there were Team of the Years running around that just would like walk through your team essentially. So I think we are in a slightly better spot in terms of the sort of ability for people to keep up with the top of the curve in a way, and that is mainly for those of us who are committed players who are like very diligent about the players we're using and also the evos and all that kind of stuff. Like we are in a kind of different spot, and this is why basically having to really push things. So it's interesting. I think we've already chatted about it enough. I'm sure we'll come back to chatting about these things as we see these Team of the Year players come out over time. I think we probably will have a slightly different schedule next week. I think we're probably going to record the content episode later in the week, just to encompass a bit more of the start of Team of the Year, considering when we do it on Monday, we often don't have as much as we'd like to chat about. And then that means the gameplay podcast will probably be Monday next week. We should say then, thank you very much, Venny, for joining us on this one. You do coaching, of course, and if people want to find you and get some coaching, where can they catch you?
On all socials, it's coach_Venny or just Coach Venny. It seems to be. Some places I've got it, some places I haven't. But also, thanks for having me to talk about the game. It's always nice to talk about where the game is heading and what other people are thinking about how the game's going. But again, I think you've mentioned a couple of times about some play styles previously, and I'm like, let me test that play style out in this position, especially like with Jockey. I think we've had this conversation, in midfielders. I was like, it's actually a pretty good play style, and it makes me start wondering about different avenues where I don't even consider. So it's always nice to jump on these and talk about the game.
No, it is one of the great things about having these chats. You learn lots yourself, I always think, which is really good. Josh, great to have you on this episode as well. I hear you have a well-timed holiday this weekend.
Yeah, it's my 10-year anniversary, so it had to be done. So I'll be away over the weekend, but that's fine. It'll stop me from opening packs. That's true. Actually, like last year, I didn't get my first Team of the Years until the middle of week 2, and then they started really coming. I got Pele and Henry in like back-to-back days. So if we can get the same luck this year, I'll be a happy man. But just on the podcast, giving tips like. Thank you for like the 3 different people who kind of messaged me and were like, those L2 R2 headers are absolutely broken. If you are someone who likes the big man meta, then definitely give those a go.
I feel like I've already plugged the supporter gameplay episode enough. That was on the one last week. But yes, thank you very much, of course, to all you listeners tuning in. If you'd like to subscribe, then you can do so via the various podcast apps and also on YouTube. If you're catching this on YouTube, then drop a like and a comment and a question that you might like to ask, maybe suggest the position we should cover on the next PlayStyle power rankings. Thank you very much for joining us, and a big thank you to all those supporters too, supporting the podcast and keeping it going, including those icon supporters:
Dave B, Darren W, Hugh J, Rob W, Josh R, Ralph, Brian, Michael B, Adam R, Make B, Michael H, Rob S, Michael K, Neil P, Jake S, Tom B, Alex M, Damon H, L, James B, Sam K, The Shirt Locker, Lee A, Chris G, Mark M, Dom P, Rob P, Roger D, Waterman, Also Ran, and Juicy. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add though. Ultimate Team is a bit like life really. It has its many ups and downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to thecalmzone.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to thecalmzone.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.